I are on vacation this week, as you can tell by our background and the wind chimes. We're at a place...
And our bad hair.
Exactly.
This is lake hair.
Exactly. We're about to go down to the lake. We're at a place called Bass Lake, and there was a murder here 2 weeks ago. And because we're here, we wanted to bring you the case live from it. And we actually had an opportunity to go and see his house where the murder occurred. And so the pictures that you see above us are the location where the victim had a home. Okay, so with that, let's go.
All right, so Robert Boyajian, who was known by Bob, was a local fixture. He was 75 years old at the time he was murdered, and he was very well known in the community. He had a home in Fresno, and he had a home in Bass Lake, not far from where we're vacationing.
And Fresno is about an hour from here.
Yeah, ish, exactly.
Yeah, depends on how fast you're driving.
Right. Anyway, so on Monday morning, July 14th, Bob missed an appointment. He was supposed to meet with somebody at 9 a.m.
He was a realtor, and he owned a real estate office in Fresno.
And because he was so fastidious and particular and organized and timely, this made the employees in his office very concerned. So one of his employees called 911 and requested that the Madera County Sheriffs do a welfare check. And they went out there, they went to his home in Bass Lake, and they found that his car was in the garage.
And it was his only car.
In addition to the car, they found his Apple Watch, which he always wore, and his briefcase at the house, which greatly concerned them. But what wasn't there was his wallet and his cell phone. So nothing in the house looked overly concerning, except when deputies went into his bedroom. There was no bedding on the bed.
Stripped bare.
Exactly. There was no signs of a struggle, but it was very odd that the bedding was nowhere to be seen.
Right. And so the woman who had called, this coworker of Bob's, who called the Madera County Sheriff's Office, she told them that Bob had a security system at his house here in Bass Lake, and that there was a young man who was actually the brother of a bookkeeper for the Fresno office who did all of Bob's IT work, and in fact, over the last month or so had been there to upgrade his security, which is actually understandable because when Kathy and I went there, he lived in a kind of remote part of the lake. He was up a very narrow winding drive, and he had about, I think it was 9.6 acres of land.
Yeah, he had a neighbor not too far from him, but everything, again, it was remote, it was forest, it was really beautiful.
It was.
The property that he had. But yes, it was kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. So because they knew this young IT man, they gave him a call and said, hey, can you help us? We want to get a hold of his cameras to see what was going on. So the guy sat with them on the phone and was trying to walk him through, how do I get into the system? How do we go here? How do we go there? And they kept having problems. None of the passwords he was giving him, they didn't work. And then this IT guy, his name was Audric, sent a screenshot to the investigators who were at the home trying to find this information that showed that the entire security system was offline. So the investigator said, well, can we get a copy of a DVR? Is it saved to a DVR? And he said, yes, here's how you go about it. The area where it was located was in the back of a closet. And so the investigators go in there and the DVR is gone.
Entire hard drive with it. Just
yep, everything's gone.
So now investigators are very concerned. Obviously, only somebody bad would take the hard drive and try to hide the security system. So they dig into his life, beginning with his bank records, and they find out that on Sunday, the day before the welfare check was called in, that somebody had withdrawn $1,000 from his account at an ATM, and that was
in a nearby town.
Exactly.
It's called Clovis.
Exactly, not too far. And it happened at 8:22. Immediately following the withdrawal of $1,000, there were 2 additional attempts at the ATM to get more money, and
apparently that was the bank's limit.
Yeah, exactly. We know those attempts were unsuccessful. So what happens is detectives immediately contact the bank and say, we would like the security footage from the camera where these were withdrawn. And they were able to get a really great shot of the person who was attempting to withdraw, who withdrew $1,000 and was attempting to withdraw more. Before detectives made the image public, because now they need to ask for the public's help, who is this person?
Right.
They went to sources close to the victim, and these people were able to identify, two people independently identified this man from the bank footage. And it turned out to be Audric Motivosian, the 21-year-old techie who had helped the victim in the past. Now, this is all happening on Monday.
Right.
I mean, this was lightning speed, this investigation. They issue a search warrant for his home, and I believe that the sheriff, what's the sheriff's name?
The Madera County Sheriff's name is Tyson Pogue.
Yeah, and I believe that based upon the description of what Sheriff Pogue said, the search warrant was executed like at around midnight.
Right.
You know, it was one.
He described it as late Tuesday, early Wednesday.
Exactly, and the goal was to talk to Audric and find out where Mr. Boyajian was. They were very hopeful that he was still alive at this point.
As they're executing the search warrant, Audric lived in Clovis. This is near the ATM where the $1,000 was withdrawn. They asked Audric, hey, will you come speak with us? And Audric agreed to do it. And so at first, as they were talking, during this interview, the first thing that investigators realized was that Audric kept referring to Bob in the past tense.
Always a tip for detectives.
Yes,
Always.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so they were like, dude, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm sorry, I keep hearing creaks over here, so I keep looking. We had a bear here recently, and so I'm totally afraid there's going to be a bear come crawling up. So during this conversation, they're like, Audric, dude, you keep referring to him in the past tense, so come on, tell us the truth. Tell us what really happened. We know something happened. Just let us work with you. And so Audric said, okay, fine. I got there and it was suicide. And they're like, no, because he couldn't clean up his own sheets if it was suicide.
They're like, try again.
Exactly.
Try again.
So he goes, okay, it was suicide, but it was assisted suicide. He had called me and asked me to come up and help him because, as we said, he was 75 years old, and he said, it just wasn't a life worth living. Then the third go round, he finally admitted that he had in fact murdered Robert Bob Boyajian. During this conversation, Audric gave the police two reasons. One of them is Audric said Bob had spoken disparagingly. What?
Oh, sorry.
That Bob had spoken disparagingly about Audric and his family. The other reason was financial.
Exactly. And so now police are backing it up because they want to see, was this something that happened in the heat of the moment? Was it, yes, financial motivation. He took $1,000. And by the way, for an IT guy, how do you not know your image is going to be on a bank camera?
We had that thought.
What the heck?
Well, and it gets repeated.
Yeah, anyway, so police backed it up and they realized that Audric had purchased a body bag on Amazon a week before the murder.
On his own account, with his own credit card.
Exactly.
And again, IT guy.
Yeah, and then he rented a vehicle on Friday. So what detectives realized was that the murder happened on a Sunday. So on Saturday, Audric called Mr. Boyajian and said, hey, you're going to be home? Can I spend the night with you in your Bass Lake home? And apparently that was not something that was unusual.
Right.
And it's a beautiful home. It's huge, plenty of room, etc.
And there are some quotes that said that initially the two boys, Audric and his brother, kind of looked at Mr. Boyajian as a grandfatherly figure to them.
Exactly. Only positive things were said about the victim.
Oh.
Really positive things.
Glowing things.
That's why the whole suicide thing had zero.
Yeah, it didn't resonate at all.
Exactly. So anyway, they find out he rents a car on Friday. He calls Mr. Boyajian on Saturday, making sure he's home and can spend the night, and brings his body bag with him that he purchased on Amazon. So he admits all of this to detectives, and he says, I wrapped him in a body bag with his bed sheets, put him in the trunk of my rented vehicle, and drove out to the Mojave Desert and buried him in a cave. So detectives are like, tell us about it. And
lead us to him.
Exactly.
And so they did. And now Mojave Desert is in San Bernardino County. It's quite a few hours south of here.
Yes. Yes.
And with Audrich's directions, they were able to go directly to the cave. They found Mr. Boyajian's body in the body bag that had been purchased on Amazon, and when they opened it, he was wrapped in sheets. Now, because the Mojave Desert is in a different county, it's not Madera County, it's San Bernardino County, the San Bernardino coroner is the one who's trying to determine the cause of death.
Right.
Nothing has been said as to how he was killed.
Correct.
When they were at Audrich's house executing the search warrant, they found 2 guns. One of them actually belonged to Mr. Boyajian, and they knew that for sure because he had reported it missing several months earlier. The second gun, Audrich actually told investigators he had found in Mr. Boyajian's nightstand. So both guns were there. I don't no word if they'd been fired. It didn't say. I kind of feel like if they'd been fired, there would have been more of a mess to clean up.
Right, and so it is possible that there was blood on the bed, and they're not revealing that fact.
Right.
So everyone's waiting for the San Bernardino coroner to come out with an official cause of death.
Exactly.
So a week ago, Audrich appeared in court, and he was charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances and grand theft, was it?
Grand theft.
He pled not guilty. He's held on $5 million bail, and the only thing left for detectives really at this point, because they have so much evidence, and of course they have a confession and corroborating facts to the confession, the only thing left for them to figure out is if he were acting alone.
Thanks for sharing our vacation with us.